Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to school committee, subcommittee, curriculum subcommittee, part 2. So we did part 1 on Monday. We heard from 5 schools. We're looking at school improvement plans, and we have another 5 today. I know it's going to feel rushed. It's just kind of how we do it. So we can ask 1 or 2 questions, but we're not going to ask a lot. Doesn't mean we're not really interested. It just means in this format, we don't have a lot of extra time. So I think we're going to start with Lawrence and Vanessa.
Thank you so much. It's nice to see you all. I'm excited to share about the progress. This is, we're moving into year 2 of our school improvement plan. So I will gloss over some of the goals. Those of you that were on school committee last year heard me present about that. And so I actually decided to focus more on those adjustments that we're making in terms of what I'll share today. And also where we are in some of the progress in terms of the data, what the data is showing us and how that makes us sort of change our pathways or make adjustments. I'd like to give a shout out, as my colleagues did, for our amazing school council. I have a great school council over at Lawrence. So we are entering our 2nd year together. And in addition to amazing, thoughtful caregivers who help me keep track of all of our data and keep me task oriented and making sure I bring that data to them at our meetings, I also have a diverse group of teachers. Jill Dempsey is a literacy specialist K-3. Charles Biley is our sometimes 7th and always 8th grade math teacher, and Kirsten Alper is our educational technology specialist. So a nice diverse of educators that work and collaborate with all of us. Like my colleagues, I've put the school improvement plan here. The one on the website is last year's. So what I have done, and you will see if you happen to look through the entire document, is right now it's in red, the revisions. And so I will change that before I put it on the website, but for your knowledge and for our sake, as I share it with the educators, the places where I've made adjustments are in red right now. Okay, so in terms of budgetary impact, I think, each of our schools is so unique and different in Brookline. And one of the things I like to highlight, which I do think is a budgetary impact, is talking about our English learners. So at Lawrence, we are the highest percentage of L's in the district. We are close to 20%. We hover around that number, some years a little higher, this year a little below, but we are very close to 20% of our students as English learners. And that really does drive a lot of our conversations. As you know, last year, we had put in our budget initially to have a 5th EL teacher, and it was cut through the process. I will say that, we have similar needs in terms of service delivery minutes by the state, in terms of an IEP versus our English learner service delivery minutes. So 45 for a transitional EL and 90 minutes a day for a foundational L. So when you take those service delivery minutes with our average special education student, it's about the same. However, our caseloads for our L teachers are easily 3 times what our special education teachers are. So that to me is a budget driver for Lawrence in an area that I like to bring to light. We are close to 40% of our students as first language, not English. So we have an amazingly diverse community, which is at the heart of and joy of our building for sure, the languages that are spoken there. But it really does tie into the work that we're doing with MTSS and thinking about, especially a new literacy curriculum and how we make sure all of our students are solid in their reading and writing in English. That is certainly a driver. Also, as we are rolling out MTSS, and this is one of the things I'd like to highlight, both with special education and EL, we are exploring and working on some co-teaching opportunities to really benefit from the opportunities for our English learner educators who, with their expertise, are special educators to collaborate and co-teach literacy and mathematics. In terms of special ed, but in terms of literacy, our EL teachers as well. And so those are budget drivers for sure. The other area in terms of budget drive is we are really looking at developing this MTSS model, and that requires us to really think strategically about both interventions and enrichment. And when we get to math, I'll talk more about the enrichment side of it. But in order to do that, we need to be exploring and piloting different opportunities that comes with my money needs. So those are sort of the budgetary implications, I would say, of the SIP that I'm putting before you today. So our first goal, like last year, is still around improved achievement and growth for literacy. And so we have increasing numbers of assessments available to us that we are looking at for students. I like to think about both achievement and growth. I think those are important, and the measures that we use give us that ability to do so. So as I go through this, you'll see I like to focus on the idea of us trying to reach that goal of 85% of our students meeting or exceeding. That's a great benchmark to set for ourselves. It's a lofty one, but one that I'd like to see us achieve. And so that is my ultimate goal, both for math and for ELA literacy, that we are able to reach that 85% of our students meeting or exceeding the standards. And then in terms of growth, we're really looking, the average growth would be a 40 to 60 band. So I would like us to see us in that range. In both my math and ELA literacy goals, you'll see that I talk about disproportionality. So we really have to push that growth for our underrepresented populations that are not performing where we want them to be in order to close those gaps. So you will see that as you look through those goals. So as I said, the goals themselves have stayed the same. It's sort of our strategic objectives, where we're going, our initiatives in this next second year of this work for these first two goals. So I'm not going to go through these goals too much. Again, for those of you that were on last year, these are the same, but you will see that we are looking at the measures, and I have the different assessments, the common assessments that we use. So K3, looking at MClass, that's the DIBELS, to look at foundational literacy skills. And then we have our STAR and our MCAS, of course, for the older students that we are looking at. Now, why do we need data? Because data helps us drive decision-making. With limited resources, it also helps us make decisions, both for our struggling students, for our students who are typical, how are they progressing? And also for our students who are at the other end of the spectrum, what do we do? How can we adjust and expand and enrich their experience as well? That's very important, when you look at our data in a minute. Okay, so I have my goals, and as you can see, the last goal, both for math and literacy, again, I mentioned this in terms of growth, us really pushing those boundaries. So if we're saying 40 to 60 is an average band, really saying we want to be at least at 55 for our disproportional subgroups, Black and African American students, Latina, EL and SPED. Okay, so in terms of our work, one of the big focuses for us at Lawrence and across the district, I'm part of the district MTSS team, is really to roll out a multi-tiered system of support. I know you've heard about this. I've shared that these are the key areas of focus as we're rolling this out. When I'm thinking about it from a building principles lens about what do I have to do, these are the pieces. And so these threads are woven throughout my math goals and my literacy goals. So you will see in terms of aligning a strategic plan with school improvement plan and educator goals, thinking about developing a school-based MTSS team. We have done that this year. Thinking about strategic scheduling, articulating tier 1, that means the instruction all kids get. And that is a big theme of where we're going this next year and have been going. And then thinking about interventions and instruction for tier 2 and 3. So, all right. So in terms of our strategic initiatives, a lot of this is really focused this year on teachers being able to take in Fish Tank, our new literacy curriculum. You've heard my colleagues talking some about that. That's where a lot of our work, especially K-5 and our middle school ELA teachers right now, is wrapping their heads around a new curriculum. But while that's going on, we still have a responsibility to be examining the data and see what that story is telling us, and then how we adjust for the students in front of a teacher. So in terms of that, what are we working on? Tier 1, our strategic initiatives are making sure, and this was started last year, really focusing on, with fidelity, implementing integrity and foundations. And that also includes, we've built in really strong win blocks at our school, 45 minutes a day at every single grade level, which is common time. And so that scheduling has been really essential. But then K through 8, that universal Fish Tank, we are doing that with integrity, making sure that we're implementing that. And that is also weaving in and moving into the next school year, this idea of extending and differentiating opportunities. Bringing in choice and voice. We heard that through our middle school review. It's really, really important that we still find ways to embed that in to the literacy experiences for our students. In terms of tier 2 and 3, the other piece that Lawrence is really focused on is we have been, and I put some of these examples up here, some of the programs we've been weaving into our tier 2 and tier 3. So these are students who are struggling, trying to match the intervention that they need. Is this a decoding problem? Is this a writing problem? Is it a fluency problem? And at what level of intervention do we need to give? And that is really what we're working on, the heart of our work in literacy this year, these areas. Okay, so how are we doing? I mentioned that for Lawrence's story, what makes us unique, in my opinion, are incredible diversity. So how are we doing? We did start, as I said, this is year 2 of this plan. And so we had already made some shifts to really make sure that our L's were all being exposed to that high quality tier 1 instruction. We really focused on integrity and foundations last year, saying we were not going to pull our L's from those programs last year. So what you can see here is that last year compared to the year before, where we were doing a lot more pullout, we actually are seeing pretty significant growth already with this initiative. The one that I would really like to highlight, and you can't see this so well, but certainly you can see from 57% up to 72% of our K-3 students in terms of the DIBELS K-3. It really has been transformative. The more we can keep the students getting that quality tier 1 instruction, the bigger difference it'll make. One of the biggest areas it's hard to see in this graph, but phonemic awareness. Integrity is a very short intervention, but you can see that went from 9% in the previous year, all of a sudden when we were saying kids need to be in there for it, it went up to 42% of our L's making those. So it's really tremendous. So I think this is all great data to show. The top one shows in terms of progressing towards English proficiency. So very excited about that as well in terms of our students making progress as L's, as we have done more co-teaching and making sure that they're exposed to tier 1 instruction. We saw great, and again, I'm not going to go through all of this. This is our overall DIBELS data. You saw me say 85%. You can see at the end of last year, we actually reached that for our foundational reading skills K-3 at Lawrence, which is pretty tremendous given 20% of our students are L's plus all of our students with disabilities. So I think we're on the right track. Feeling very good about that. Our ELA data, we had a lot to celebrate as well. As you can see, we had 84% of our students by 8th grade. We had the 5th highest 8th grade math ELA scores in the state, which is really tremendous. So a huge highlight there as well. I'm going to switch into math, but I can see the time. In terms of math, again, the overall goals are the same as last year, but we're further along in our adoption. We're year 5 into using investigations K-5 and using Desmos 6 through 8. And our teachers are really good at using it. And when you look at our data, which I'll show and highlight, we're really at a point where we have to talk about extension and expanding, differentiating. And we've been working on that for 2 years at Lawrence already. When I came in, it was the first thing the math specialist told me. We want a schedule that includes 60 minutes. We want all our kids in the classroom. And we've already seen that be transformative. And then within that, in the K-5 model, making sure we're really utilizing a workshop model to extend and enrich for the kids who need that, and then focus on reteaching for students who need that skills work. At 6 through 8, it looks a little bit different. Desmos builds a lot of it into the math curriculum, and then you have your math discourse, phenomenal math teacher. In terms of our how are we doing, we are seeing tremendous progress. So we are the #1 math scores in 8th grade. So our students are getting there, and you can see we hit 91% of our students meeting and exceeding at 8th grade in the state of Massachusetts. So incredibly exciting to see, but just as exciting to me is that trajectory of our SGPs 3 through 8. You can see we hit 65 SGP, which means we're doing phenomenally well at moving all of our students to higher levels. Really exciting, given that the last 2 years is where this work has happened and we've made some transitions. We are seeing that we are on the right path with those adjustments we've made to how we instruct. And it is just as exciting in our subgroups. Again, I talked about disproportionality. It's important to think about this, but you look at this in terms of our students. These are SGPs for students subgroups. I mentioned we have to push that bar even more. As you can see, our high needs math from last year, our SGP was 63 for those students as well. That includes ELs, special education students, and low income students. So that to me tells us we are on a good path in terms of math of closing those gaps. All right, the last goal, and I know I'm out of time, is our belonging goal. And this is one we did have to make some shifts for. So I just want to highlight those. A lot of the work at our middle school level was collaborating with the Office of Educational Equity. And that work will continue through our meeting structures in terms of advisory work 6 through 8. We're continuing that work, but we've had to shift away from that. But the other big piece, and I have my spotted tickets there and Lori the leopard, is we do finally have a mascot. And in terms of belonging, overall student belonging, we had a competition my first year. The leopard was chosen. You can see it is everywhere on our stuff, but we have spotted tickets. We have adopted over 2 years of PBIS model. And the big focus has been, we want to move this into our middle schools at this time. And so we are rolling out a principals advisory council, PAC, the leopard PAC, as it will be called. And that will be sort of a student council, but it's going to be based on students nominated to serve for a third of the year, with service being a priority, picking a service project, a spirit project that we will do, and then their opportunity to counsel us about needs across the school. So I'm very excited that we are rolling, our PBIS has been building to the point where now we're really going to incorporate our middle school into this sense of belonging. So how are we doing? There's a lot of great data here. So again, if you look over these last 2 years, we've really moved our numbers in terms of student belonging, hitting a much higher level and closer to what we wanted to get to. But even as exciting as our overall data, looking at our panorama data for some of our subgroups, which again is something that I put in here and it's an area we need to focus on. That's super exciting. My last highlight, and we do have an attendance goal. This will show you, this is from DESE in terms of our chronic absenteeism. And this has been a huge focus for my admin clinical team. We talk about this. I know some of my colleagues said that every single week. The nursing team is involved. All of our counselors, our med co-advisor, our steps to success advisor. And so when you look at this and you can see that the efforts we've made to close the gap and get students to school, you don't feel like you belong if you're not here. And so really, this is probably the data I'm most proud of, is kids are coming to school so much more. And when you look at some of those vulnerable populations, our low income, to go from 23% to 12%, I think it's phenomenal. I'm really excited. That means kids want to come to Lawrence. This is one of those first indicators that belonging is happening to me. So with that, there are some of our spotted ticket winners saying thank you to you all. And that's it.
Thank you. Any quick comments or questions? Sarah?
I love the use that you're making of win. You said that kind of quickly, your win throughout all grades.
Yes, well, all the way K through 5 has one look to it. 6th grade, we've been very intentional with a model that evolved with our schedule when I came in and me working with teachers. But the WIN model at 6th grade, we're really excited about how that is looking as well. 7th and 8th grade, it's very limited. They only have 1 win a week. So it's a little bit different because of they need world language. So that sort of takes the place. It's a very important thing. But yes, our K through 6 win, we're really excited. And that really is the work of this year, helping teachers figure out how do we use it, but it's protected time. So if an L needs to be out to get that foundational work, or a special education students needs above and beyond, like a Wilson program, they still get all of the core curriculum and then above and beyond during the win time. That win time for our students who need enrichment can be book clubs, literature circles. We have days that we've worked with the specialists. These are going to be math focused days. So we could be doing math games or extension math projects while other kids are working in a small group with a teacher to reinforce skills. So that's the fundamental purpose of a win. It's protected time, but allows intervention and the obvious hope in a school like ours where you see those great high math scores is we're enriching our students as well.
So the
Yeah, go ahead.
A plus,
Okay.
yeah, it's beautiful, focus on all the kids. I love it. I have a question. That's not really having to do with Lawrence, but we talk about belonging all the time. It's hugely important. Every school kid's job is their schoolwork. So my question, this is kind of, again, it's a big question. How much, what's the relationship between kids who do well at their work, at their school, and belonging?
Very high. And I mean, you can see our disproportionality in terms of students who are not feeling safe or secure at school or feel like a member of our community, they don't come. And then they're missing lessons. So it's integral to everything we do, which is why it's a focus of our meetings every single week. It is challenging. I will say FRR and Lawrence in particular have very transient populations. We have 65 new students since September 5th at our school. So usually about 15% of our students outside of kindergarten are changing. So how do you bring those students in? So we've made some decisions, like we did an international family welcome separate from our new family welcome. We've done really a lot of focus working with our EL teachers, talking about that, because you don't speak the language, you come in as a newcomer. How are you going to feel part of this? And this is, I mean, why I think PBIS is so important in building the sense of belonging in community. So being a leopard means something. Like that's what I want.
Thanks.
So I'll just say that one of the things I heard, Vanessa, is that you focus on tier 1 for everybody. You don't pull the students out because they need that. And
Correct.
then they get their additional tier 2 or 3,
Yes.
either during WIN or some other way.
Yep. It's tricky. Our days are short.
Yeah.
But as I've said, when I was hired, I love scheduling. And I think that that's one of the most important jobs other than hiring of a building principal is working with our educators and then troubleshooting. And it's all year long. It's not a one and done. And I'll be meeting with Joelle and Robin and our literacy specialists, and we'll be doing this over and over again. It's not a one-time thing. Scheduling has to be done constantly to evolve with our needs.
Okay, thank you very much. We're gonna move quickly on.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Vanessa.
you. That's awesome.
I think Ridley's next.
Yes. Hello. Betsy, I may need you to share the presentation if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Who's this?
Sorry,
So,
she's the principal. I'm not sure you know us, Sarah. Do you?
No, we have not yet had the pleasure of meeting, so I apologize I wasn't able to make it in person today, but I'm
Okay.
Sada Ewan, the new principal at Florida Ruffin Ridley School, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today, this afternoon. Thank you for having me.
And this is quick work for you because you're new, so.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's my pleasure to share the presentation on behalf of Florida Ruffin Ridley and our school site council. I will just begin with some short framing that you may be aware that we're in year 3 of a 3-year cycle, which was started by my predecessor, Candace Whitmore, who's now with us at Pierce School. So we did make some revisions to our school improvement plan for this 3rd year of the 3-year cycle based on the strategic priorities outlined by the district in the strategic plan and reiterated by our superintendent, Bella Wong, at the beginning of the year. So before we dive into that, I do, like my colleagues, want to take a moment. I think it's really critically important for me to acknowledge our phenomenal school site council members, some of whom I know are watching with me today. Thank you for being here. So for our caregiver representatives, we have Rayut Bronner, Sarah Chostner, Erin Mayer, and Sivan Shimoni. And I'm so grateful for all of their expertise and passion and investment in our school and in this process. In my short tenure so far, I feel like I've learned a wealth of information from our caregivers, including these folks. And additionally, our teacher representatives and one of our vice principals, new vice principal, also joined the school site council. So for teachers, we have Daniel Lipton and Yael Neiman Schubert, who have both been with our school for a number of years, many, many years. And again, just a wealth of information and knowledge that they hold about our building and about Public Schools of Brookline. They're both incredibly actively involved in our community. It's really humbling to learn from them and to get to partner with them every day. So I'm grateful for their participation and active engagement in this process of formulating the revisions to the plan for this year. And also, as I mentioned, Mary Gallant is one of our new vice principals. She's the new vice principal for grades 3 through 5, who joined us this year, most recently having been a vice principal in the Winchester Public Schools, and prior to that, having been an educator and coach in Cambridge Public Schools. So she brings great experience to this role and to our school council as well. Thank you, Betsy. We can keep going. All right, so budgetary impact. A lot of what I heard Vanessa Bolello share just now resonated deeply and is applicable in the context of Florida Ruffin Ridley School as well. So I think the component that she really zoomed in on was the work of supporting our English learners and students with disabilities. As I'm sure you are aware, this is a population that has grown at our school over the past few years. And I also think it's important to name in this context that Florida Ruffin Ridley being the largest of the K-8 schools in Brookline and being a Title I school as well, we also actually have, according to Mindy Paolo, the largest caseloads for our ELE teachers. So our school has about just under 18% of our students are English learners. And we have almost 900 students. I think we are currently up to 873, if I'm not mistaken. And so the caseloads for our ELE teachers are fairly significant. We're also very fortunate to have the Hebrew language program and to have multiple ELE teachers who are fluent in Hebrew. That's a huge asset for our school and our community. And it's tricky when they are, working with the caseloads that they have and being very diligent and dedicated to the work. So that's just a piece that I think is important to highlight in terms of budgetary impacts as we consider our goals and the work that lies ahead. Can keep going, Betsy. Thank you. So as some overall framing, the large strategic objective and goals have not changed from last year. And we did that intentionally because, again, we want to honor the great work that the school site council, my predecessors in administration, and our teachers, our educators have done over the last couple of years, and want to carry that forward, again, with an emphasis on making the strategic shifts in alignment with our district priorities. So our district goal is increasing achievement for all students by establishing, implementing, and regularly assessing a consistent, high quality, challenging curriculum delivered by evidence-based practices. As you are all well aware, we're in the middle of the first year of full implementation of Fish Tank. At FRR, we are doing the full implementation in K-5, but our middle school ELA teachers have also opted in, all of them have opted in to pilot at the 6 through 8 level. So we are one of the schools that's full implementation for K-8 for Fish Tank. So our strategic objective focuses on the new literacy curriculum implementation with professional development, data-driven instruction, and monitoring to boost student achievement. So again, that's a continuation, but we'll dive into how some of our monitoring has shifted a little bit in the next slide. If you can move forward, Betsy. Thank you. So this is where we've made some adjustments as a council, and our rationale here was, pretty straightforward because we are focused on implementing Fish Tank and our school is in full implementation. And our data also tells us a story that literacy is really the area that we should be placing our focus. We wanted to zoom in more specifically, more heavily into literacy, but also we wanted to be precise with what component of literacy we're going to focus in on this year. As you're all aware, literacy, especially early literacy, has so many components. You're thinking about, all of the threads in Scarborough's rope. You're thinking about those structured literacy pieces, the phonics, the phonemic awareness, the oral reading fluency, as well as the language acquisition piece and language development, vocabulary, all of those pieces. So we took a hard look at our data, which I am going to share in a coming slide. And we looked at what are the components within literacy instruction that we need to pay more attention to and give more focus to. And for our school in particular, it was pretty clear that reading and comprehending complex grade level text is the place to zoom in. Now, the great news is that that is exactly what Fish Tank is designed for. It's designed and intended to support students in developing their comprehension of complex grade level text. So you'll see that that's written into the strategic initiative. So the first bullet there highlighting that we want our PD this year to focus on reading comprehension, specifically that component of literacy instruction, using the newly adopted Fish Tank curriculum. And we also made some adjustments to the goals and benchmarks, again, to be reflective of the adjustments we made in the strategic initiatives. So for the goals and benchmarks, we were thinking about how do we capture how we are implementing the new curriculum and how effective that is. And so in partnership with the Site Council, we thought about measuring using some school survey data and really assessing how teachers are feeling, how they are self-assessing their own comfort and efficacy in using Fish Tank, because we know that when there's a rollout of a new curriculum, there is an adoption curve, there is a learning curve. We have wonderful, wonderful teachers that I'm so grateful to partner with every day. And they are working really hard and working together and collaborating and unpacking the curriculum and working with folks like Joelle and Kristen Gray at the district level as well, and our literacy specialists. And that is phenomenal. And we know it's normal and common that there is going to be a period, that learning curve, where people are getting adjusted to internalizing this new curriculum. I'm fortunate that in my last two positions, one of them being a principalship, I was very heavily involved in the adoption of a new curriculum, one at the district level and one at the school level. So I've seen this play out in different contexts already a couple of times over the last 6 years or so. And it really is in year one about learning the new curriculum, internalizing it, and feeling more and more effective at being able to instruct using it. Secondly, again, the bulk of this strategic initiative remained the same. We want to create opportunities for teachers to collaborate in learning communities focused on both literacy and math so that they can review student work, share strategies together, learn from each other, and discuss those progress towards goals. So again, we're thinking about how are teachers feeling about their use and their effectiveness with the new curriculum. And, one of the school site council members who's a teacher named, I think very appropriately, that we want to continue the progress that Ridley School has made in math as well. We don't want to ignore that, even though more of our time and effort in professional development this year will be focused on literacy. It's important not to lose sight of our math achievement. And so we want some of our PLC, some of our learning community time to be focused on math instruction as well. And we will go into the data as to how math student outcomes have improved over the past few years, but we want to ensure that that improvement and that trajectory continues. So we're thinking about our growth data in particular and maintaining or exceeding that growth data in grades 3 through 8 as a good barometer of continuing that work in math, even while we are more deeply involved in internalizing a new literacy curriculum this year. And then finally, in terms of literacy again, and Vanessa Bolello spoke to this as well in her presentation, one of our district priorities is continuing the work of developing district-wide MTSS systems. So we thought that one slice of that we can work on at FRR this year is piloting the use of UFly in some classrooms and intervention spaces to augment students' decoding skills. Now, we know again that for FRR, we need to focus most on that reading comprehension piece, but we have seen some great promise in the use of UFly, especially in the intervention spaces, thinking about tier 2, as well as some in tier 1. And so we want to follow that data so that we can take that into consideration in our next version of our school improvement plan. You can keep going, Betsy. Thank you. So now here is some of our data. This starting with our STAR reading data. I thought it was really interesting. If you look at the bar graphs on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the proportion of red is most significant in that last bar graph on the bottom. And that is exactly the area that we discussed, which is range of reading and level of text complexity, excuse me. So again, that's part of the basis of our rationale for wanting to zoom in on that area, particularly once students have mastered their decoding skills in the lower grade levels. Okay, you can keep going, Betsy. And then here is some important math and literacy data that shaped our thinking around our goals and those adjustments for this year. So in the left-hand column, you'll see some of our MCAS results in literacy in particular. This is grades 3 through 8. So you'll see that our percent of students meeting or exceeding is 63%. And there was a little bit of an uptick last year compared to the prior year. But the overall achievement in ELA over the past few years has been relatively flat. So that's one of the reasons why we really want to push the bar with our literacy achievement this year. And then if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's been a little bit more of an upward trend over the past few years in math. Slightly more. We still have work to do in math. We're not satisfied with where we are in math, but we have made progress over the last several years. And again, that's a credit to the educators in the building and the former administration. I can't claim any of that credit as a new person, but I think it's worth highlighting that we've had this past year, 69% of students meeting or exceeding, and our average SGP was also higher than literacy at 61.4%. All right, Betsy, you can keep going. Okay, our next two goal areas, there were fewer adjustments that we made in terms of monitoring in these buckets, because again, as the site council and I reviewed the language here, we really felt like this is the work that needs to continue in the last full year of this plan cycle. So our goal is to implement as a district is to implement culturally responsive community engagement plan to foster connections among caregiver schools, the district and community. And we as a school want to provide open, consistent, and accessible communication channels to strengthen the relationship between families and school. Next slide, Betsy. So again, here we made fewer overall adjustments because we're invested in continuing the work that has begun this school year. So the last version of the school improvement plan included creating a structured communication plan that shares when and how the school is sharing information. We want to take this school year to review and revise and augment that communication plan. And we do want to see an increase in engagement from family and community as a result. Secondly, we want to continue to organize workshops that resonate with the needs and interests of the community. So again, the language that was adjusted there was continue to do this work because the site council and I are in agreement that this feels like it's important to continue that, which was already begun. And then finally, continue to use multiple communication platforms to ensure that information is accessible to all families. So again, minor adjustments here, but again, wanting to honor the work that has been done in this area and carry it forward. Next slide, Betsy. Okay, and finally, the third goal area, and I know it's a little bit of a quick breeze through, but I'm trying to be cognizant of time. The district goal from the strategic plan is to partner with families in the community to create safe environments that promote belonging. And we want to create a safe, positive, and inclusive learning environment for all students and community members that affords them a high sense of belonging and celebrates gains along the way. Next slide. Here, there were some adjustments because some of the language from the last version of the plan, we felt like those initiatives had been met in large part. So one of them was to implement a school-wide cell phone policy procedure for FRR, and that's something that was done in prior years, and we're continuing to use those procedures. And we're also aware that the Massachusetts State Legislature is considering some language and adopting, legislation around cell phone use in schools. So we felt like it wasn't the right time to include that in this most recently revised version of the plan. But we are continuing two of the other initiatives that were in the plan, which is to refine our school-wide positive behavior interventions and support system to support a positive culture in the school. And we examined the goals and benchmarks that had been written into the plan and decided to add a little bit more language around how specifically we're measuring whether or not we've met this strategic initiative. So the language that we adjusted here was that we're going to look at disciplinary referrals in comparison with last school year. So there was previous language about reducing referrals by 30%. Now we're saying, yes, we want to do that, but we want to specifically compare with the prior year so that we can see that we're making improvements year over year. And then finally, we want to continue to integrate restorative practices into our PBIS system to address conflicts and repair relationships and promote accountability. And again, you'll see that language of the goal, including that piece of comparing with last year to measure improvement. Okay, keep going, Betsy. All right, and so like Vanessa Bolello, we took a look at our belonging data from Panorama, and I think there's a lot to celebrate here in terms of the overall trajectory of improvement. With respect to students' sense of belonging over the past few years, which is again a credit to all the wonderful educators that we have at FRR. I think that when you dig into the subgroups, as Vanessa mentioned, it's also true at FRR that there is variance among some of our subgroups. So we want to celebrate the progress and name it, acknowledge it, and also dig into the subgroup data and how can we make sure that all of our students are feeling that sense of belonging. Even if our overall averages are high, we want to make sure that's true for all of our individual students. Okay, keep going. All right, and that is my whirlwind presentation, but I look forward to any questions that the subcommittee has.
Thank you, Sarah. We really appreciate it. Are we good to go?
Hi, Sarah. I'm Bob Weintraub. I never met you, but you are.
Raise your hands so you can see who. Maybe it's.
That was an incredibly impressive presentation for someone who's quite new to the community. I appreciate the way you gave credit to the long-term educators that you're working with and the leaders that were here recently. It's just, it's impressive. And, some of the fundamental goals of academic achievement and helping kids feel like this is their home. So thank you very much and good luck. Hope to see you around this next few years.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna, go ahead.
Is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Thal.
Raise your hands.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
I don't work in school building. So when you say disciplinary referral, just like what specifically counts as a disciplinary referral experience?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So they range, but anything that would be considered a violation of the code of conduct, which some of those, as I'm sure you're familiar, the code has behaviors that list out at level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 being, more minor incidents, and behaviors at 4 and 5 being much more major incidents. And so we have a system in place to track that whole range, anything that would be considered minor to anything that would be considered major. And so when we say decreased disciplinary referrals, we're saying across the board, right? So whether it's something relatively small that may happen more frequently, like a student who is disregarding directions from, an educator to something more major where we're looking at that holistically. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna let you go because I think Brian is next, but thank you so much and welcome to Brookline. We're so delighted you're here. It's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to working with you all over the coming months and years. Take
Thanks,
care.
Sarah.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Brian.
Hello.
We are here for
Hey,
there,
everybody.
and the floor is yours. We're ready to start.
Yes,
we're
thank you.
just
Thank you,
late.
everybody, for having me. Okay. Tremendous. Betsy, could I impose on you to also show the Lincoln slides? Yeah. Okay. You can skip ahead to the next one, please. I want to acknowledge the caregiver and teacher reps who have helped in development of our plan as members of our school council. Christopher Blesson, Sarah J., and Sandra Wiesman, our parent reps, our teacher reps, Courtney O'Leary, Donald Petrie, Gretchen Thompson, and Alejandra Traub. Without their insights in both the meetings themselves and also in kind of the understanding the various perspectives they bring, the plan wouldn't be as robust as it is. So I thank them for their time and partnership. Next slide, please, Betsy. So I wanted to start with some celebrations and some acknowledgments from the past year in our work at Lincoln. Notably, we've continued growing our middle school student council. Highlights include how they've worked in the planning of our 4th annual field day, both in terms of the organizing of subcommittees going into the day and then helping to run field day itself when we get rolling. I've had volunteers helping to deliver morning announcements, so it's not just my voice that students are hearing every morning making announcements. They plan spirit days, they organize and execute our paper recycling program, and are just growing to take on more and more of those leadership opportunities that we want to see our middle schoolers take advantage of as leaders in a K-8 building. We also last year continued our Classroom Buddies programming. Those again are opportunities for our older students, right, upper elementary and middle, to be partnering on a monthly basis with our younger students around our school's core values of creativity, curiosity, and compassion. Sometimes these include doing a read aloud and then a shared art project together that we display in the Lincoln School. Sometimes it is, just a cozy get together and read with a buddy time. But it's really been gratifying to watch those relationships playing out also across the school day, right? Where our, not even during the planned buddy times, but where classes will be coming to see each other's artwork during the art show or coming to participate in a publishing party celebration, for instance. Last year we held our 2nd annual Culture Fest, and our 3rd one is already on the books and being planned for the spring, organized by our Lincoln Initiative for Equity, LIFE. This is where student and family volunteers presented some element of their family culture, be it art, music, food, language. We, this summer, were the lucky beneficiaries of the 3rd and final phase of a project to refresh our space, our hallways and our classrooms. That got us some new paint, some new flooring, some new carpeting, and maybe most notably climate control across all of the classrooms at Lincoln, which has our students and educators thrilled. We opened a 3rd adaptive learning center classroom that came about through the budget process last year. And we added that role to better support the growing population of students in the Adaptive Learning Center ALC program, not only in this year, but in the years ahead. And finally, through both opening that 3rd classroom and also the kind of, packing up and moving out of a lot of classrooms for the paint and refresh work going on, we made some strategic moves of where classrooms and other kinds of learning spaces were located. This included creating the space for that 3rd ALC room, getting a bigger classroom for our EL teacher who works with our middle school students to allow her for some more space and more and better support pullout services she's providing. And we also created in our multi-purpose room a adaptive and physical therapy and occupational therapy space that we're kind of calling the motor space or the motor room. So those are some of the community celebrations. Next couple of slides will take us through some data celebrations from last year. Next slide, please, Betsy. Thank you. So, yep. So I want to highlight on our spring 25 ELA MCAS overall, 71% of Lincoln students were meeting or exceeding expectations. That's up 5 points from the spring of 24. And our kiddos had an average SGP of 61. In math, we had 74% of our students meeting or exceeding expectations, up from 71% in 2024, and an average SGP nearly 62. A number we pay a lot of attention to, and I know that Vanessa and Sarah both highlighted their school belonging numbers. By our spring of 25 administration of the Panorama report, 85% of students at Lincoln were reporting high feelings of school belonging. That's up 6% from the spring of 24, up nearly 30% from when we first started administering the survey, and that's an all-time high for us. What's also notable too is when you start digging into the demographic data, you see actually in third through fifth grade, kind of a continuing pattern of our students identifying as African American and Black who are reporting the highest school belonging of any group. I also pull in note for my staff when we kicked off our work back in August, the growth we saw from beginning of year to end of year in our M-class screener. So that's 74.5%. Those are students in first, second, and third grade. Our kindergartners weren't taking the beginning of the year M-class, but then by end of year, it included them, and the benchmark moved, and 81% of our students were at or above benchmark. So really solid growth over the course of the year that I think is a credit to obviously the fantastic work done by our educators and specialists, and then also some of the strategic moves we put in place through this process. Next slide, please, Betsy. So one area that we're keeping an eye on very closely this year has to do with our attendance. So you can see our overall attendance rate in between 23, 24, and then last year slid about 0.3%, and we saw an uptick on our chronic absenteeism rate. And I think that we need to be mindful of getting that number down, ideally down below 10%, right? And again, chronic absenteeism is students who are missing 10% or more of the school year. In that last row I have for you there, the data thus far this year, right? So we're tracking at 97%, but I'm clear-eyed about the idea that it's easier to show up in September and October, and it's certainly easier to show up before we've been struck by any stomach bugs or other flus and pestilences. But our chronic absenteeism rate is about half right now, which is, but that's an on track for number, obviously. I don't have friends who have missed 18 days of school just yet. Part of our, the theory of action here too is in looking at attendance is drilling in on tardies. So the Open Architects platform has been fantastic for really, I think, all of our principals, and I've been, kind of evangelizing among my staff at how easy it is to get at the data and how easy it is to manipulate it and answer some curious questions you might have. So it's tracking for us our total number of tardies over the course of the year. And so we see this like really dramatic increase from 23, 24 to the year, to nearly 1,500 more. So this year I've begun every day, through Aspen, students and families get notified if a student is absent, right? If a student's marked absent, that phone call goes out, parents get that notice, and most of the time they're aware. But we're not tracking, tardy notifications had not really shown up as a thing until a progress report or report card was going home. And where you have more and more perhaps of our middle school students walking to school on their own, right, as they should be trusted to do, parents may think, in fact, that they're there on time. But every day we're grabbing and sending a blanket email to the caregivers of kids who are marked tardy and just letting families know, this is just to let you know your child was marked tardy this morning. You can view more information about that in the parent portal on Aspen. And so we see it seems to be having an effect so far that we're down below even the pace that we were on in by October 20th 2 years ago. And so I'm hoping that can continue to be the case by focusing in on tardies, by focusing in on communicating with families. We're prioritizing the idea of not only being there every day, but being there on time every day. Okay. Like some of my colleagues, both on Monday and today, have highlighted what we've endeavored to do. We're in year 3 of a 3-year plan, but have also endeavored to work within the existing strategic plan, as well as the kind of like focused goals of the strategic plan that we developed in concert with senior leadership over the summer. And so, under the district goal of increasing achievement for all students, we are supporting access to grade level text, content, and tasks through data-based instruction and intervention. Can you go to the next slide, please, Betsy? And it's here where we see like some of the choices we're making in terms of systems, some of the moves we're making in terms of like how we structure data meetings and other, and the ways in which we think through our tiered intervention systems. So, for example, we're like FRR, we are in full implementation of the fish tank curriculum. My 2 middle school teachers in grades 6 through 8, along with the entirety of the K-5 program, are implementing the fish tank program. And so we're trying to support teachers through the implementation of this new curriculum by creating opportunities for their collaboration, both in faculty meeting and common planning time. It has been really helpful to partner with Office of Teaching and Learning, as well as Kristen Gray. They set up an opportunity for Lincoln first grade staff to get over to Baker and observe first grade teachers there teaching fish tank and debrief not only with those staff, but also among themselves about what they observed. New to us this year is having a WIN block in grades K-8. Previously, WIN was operating in grades 4 and 5. This year, I moved to schedule it in grades K through 8. In part because, as Vanessa spoke to, we need protected time for Tier 1 instruction to occur, and then this set-aside time for the kinds of interventions that some of our students need and benefit from to take place. So this helps to give more students access to the Tier 1 experience without needing to be pulled for either EL services or other interventions, and then also creates more, dedicated time for our specialists to have access to students for those kinds of interventions. It's also important to schedule in such a way to support the implementation of the various curricula and various things that our classroom teachers need to implement. And so what that means is a coherent schedule where you are not chopping up a math block in the middle with a special or recess, etc. Those kinds of like small but simple moves have a big impact on the flow of a day and on the flow of the student experience, and then ultimately too how you schedule students for intervention and how you schedule students for certain needed services in special education or EL. And then the final action that we're paying attention to this year and have rolled out, I think, pretty successfully this fall is holding combined data and intervention meetings with our math and literacy specialists. We're doing this for a few reasons. I think first is to honor the teacher time, right? So we had for the last few years been having grade level meetings for math, looking at that data, making choices for students about in-class and out-of-class supports, and then holding a separate meeting for literacy. And those were thoughtful conversations, but it did take a lot of teacher time. And also, it set off a kind of race to be first to schedule your intervention meeting to get the best crack at an intervention spot in scheduling your students. So in this case, we're able to not only like have one combined meeting where we're looking at the sort of totality of needs of our students across contents, we're also more coherently scheduling interventions in the room there, understanding like, okay, the priority right now for this student based upon the data that we're all looking at in math and in literacy is that they get some literacy intervention because it's impacting all pieces of their experience. Or clearly the priority is that they are in need of some intervention in math and they're a great fit for this group for this 6-week cycle. So that shift, I think, has produced a level of coherence among our specialist team, and I think our grade level teams have been able to bring to bear all of the knowledge that for me to be joining those meetings and hear all of the knowledge that our educators have about kiddos across years has been really really helpful to hear and help to make good planning decisions for them moving forward. Next slide, please, Betsy. Thanks. So our second and third goals both have to do with supporting the student experience and as a mechanism for that, supporting the student experience with our parents and caregivers and community. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Betsy. Some of our strategic actions as they relate to goal number 2. I know it seems quite simple, but going back 3 springs ago, it seems like we save everything awesome in a school sometimes for 2 to 3 weeks in May and June, where parents feel as if maybe I don't go to work at all. I come and I attend these concerts or these breakfast shares or these work shares or these field trips. And so part of what we've tried to do both for ourselves internally and how we communicate with families is get a year-long scope of opportunities when we are inviting parents to come and join an open house or to participate in a work share or to see a concert or to see the opening of an art show, and schedule that so that our families, especially those with kids across multiple grade levels, can be there to support, and also so that we are more we're more thoughtful about each other's spaces and not bumping somebody out of the theater who needs it for a presentation. And we're also recognizing where maybe we have months that we're not doing a lot of programming and maybe should consider moving something to better integrate or to better bring in members of our families or members of our community. We're trying to support staff in some consistent and reliable means of communicating proactively with families. I think we have a lot of great on-the-cuff interactions that can occur at pickup or a drop-off out in the front circle at Lincoln. And teachers are obviously in touch, or parents are in touch with teachers when as needs arise. But I think we also are trying to be more thoughtful about the more regular, proactive communication that can prompt conversation, especially with our older learners who maybe are not too keen to let you know anything else is going on other than that school is good. And then we want to continue to grow and support events and programming like Culture Fest, like Lincoln Links, a program organized by our Lincoln Metco liaison, or the Ruby Bridges Walk alongside other existing PTO and community events. I feel really lucky the partnership that I've had over time with our PTO. They have consistently had this shared vision that the PTO exists to support students first and to build community as a part of that, and have been fantastic partners in that work of everything they do is either geared towards providing a great experience for students or to helping teachers to better support students and grow and build our community. And if you want to see that coming out this weekend, I recommend you check out Pumpkin Fest on Sunday. And between 12:40 and 1 o'clock, if you're so inclined, you can throw a pie at my face. Next slide, please, Betsy. Thank you. Again, we're drilling in on belonging, right? Creating and nurturing an environment that promotes feelings of belonging. And I think that, while I highlighted at the beginning the relatively high rate of school belonging we have, I think that then kind of, the work becomes what are the small actions, what are the thin slices of work we need to be taking to ensure that we stay there and continue to grow. I think coming out of, I look at our data from the spring of 2021 administration of the Panorama Survey, and understandably so at that point, our feelings of school belonging were low. And so the moves that you make to grow your belonging when you're coming off of distancing and masks are pretty easy, right? Now the work grows a little bit more nuanced and a little more challenging and a little more interesting. The good news is that, in a lot of cases, if there are students who are identifying like low feelings of belonging at a school the size of Lincoln, we're able to know exactly who they are, and to be able to identify that number of students and come up with specific interventions to support them. Can I go to the next slide, Betsy? So part of how we do this, right, is kind of our ongoing putting our shoulder into the work of daily morning meeting time in grades K through 5. And that's where either through morning meeting and or some additional blocks built in for SEL, staff are kind of doing those tier 1 lessons that support community, that support identity, that support relationship. We're by having that time, we're then able to implement a tier 1 SEL curriculum in K through 5. At the middle school level, while we don't have morning meeting in the dedicated way that our K to 5 folks do, we this year are using some aspects of WIN as a mechanism for either intervening with students who need some additional support in the area, in some aspect of their SEL experience, or through leveraging that time for global team building opportunities. That was how across across 6 through 8, they launched WIN, was, seeing, some of our, for example, our 8th graders engaged in some team building activities early on in the year. Finally, as I spoke about at the beginning, part of belonging is being there. And part of feeling connected to school is being there. And so decreasing our rate of chronic absenteeism and daily tardies is ongoing work for this year. I think that that is just, needs to just be intentional work by both, having accurate records in our classrooms and in the office, and keeping track of who's here when, but then also a daily check, a daily and weekly checkpoint on the part of myself and my vice principal, as well as our clinical team, about what's happening with students who we maybe have seen all of a sudden missing many days in a row, and we don't know why, or they were sick and now they're finding it hard, to get back. So really focusing in on chronic absenteeism and paying attention to daily tardies and getting kids there for all of the things that we have to offer them between 8 and 2:30 every day is the work of the year in attendance. And that is a very quick spin through the work that we've had going on at Lincoln and are focused on this year. So
Thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate it. Any quick comments?
Sure.
Yes, Sarah.
I had said to Vanessa earlier that I was excited to see the expansion of WIN. And so likewise with you, very happy to see that that's something that you've been able to expand. And I was just wondering, I guess it's sort of just a yes or no question. Is there a day when you could see that instead of like having the kids that need intervention leave WIN, and the kids that are left behind, maybe who are very good at persevering through difficult emotions, are they left to do just team building, or is there a chance for us eventually to do enrichment during WIN so that some of those kids can get like even greater experiences? Do you think that someday we might be there?
So you said yes or no. I think the answer to that is almost, right. I think that like right now in some places, for example, in 8th grade, the team has, they have 2 WIN blocks a week. One of them they are utilizing for kind of intervention or check-in or academic support and makeup. The other one, like for example, my 8th grade social studies teacher is on a 6-week rotation of their students doing like like kind of an intro economics class with kids, right? Like kind of like a macro. So it is a bit of extension and enrichment happening there where they are, kind of getting elements of, his area of interest and expertise at a kind of like, 30,000 foot level. So it is a bit of extension for all, and it is a bit of enrichment, for all, coupled with, opportunities for kids to be pulled out on kind of the alternating days.
Love hearing that. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you.
And I think congratulations, Brian, on your middle school program was highly rated in the state, was it not, last year?
We were, yeah. Last year, I think it was with the curriculum subcommittee, where the folks at US News, we were in the top 10 for middle school programming in the state, according to those folks. And I think it is great that the middle school itself, I was always careful when, talking about that, the middle school got the shine for it, but truly we are as a K-8 school, those kids get there to
Right.
that place in middle school as a result of a lot of really great work that happened with them from the time they were 5 going forward.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, Bob Weintraub.
Hello.
How you doing? I'm impressed. Excellent report. I love your celebrations. I love the focus on, the truly basics of good schooling, academics, social, emotional stuff. And I love your use of the word kiddos.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We appreciate it. We're gonna move along. We've got 2 more, so thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Brian, Saeed is available.
Yep, Saeed is on here.
Okay, Saeed. Hi, Saeed. So we're running just a little behind.
Oh, no worries.
And Anthony, I know you're on there somewhere, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. And I hope committee members are okay. We're moving along as we can. Yeah, wait, you have the time. Okay, well, we hope it. Okay, Saeed, you can go right ahead.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I almost said good morning because I'm just have no idea what time it is right now, but it's good to see all of you. I think I met at some capacity in my time in Brookline, all of you. So hello again. I'm Saeed Ola. I am the principal of the Baker School. What I love about the Baker School is that it is a large school that has small school vibes. We are the second largest school in the district. We're behind FRR. Right now we're sitting at about 662 students with Lawrence right behind us with, I think they're about 627 or 630 or so. This school improvement plan that I'm going to share with you is a result of a lot of collaboration and teamwork, which is also a hallmark of the Baker School. So I need to give thanks to Gareth Lawson, Scott Lippman, Dylan Rossi, and Leslie Tomian, and many other people not named on this slide right now. But everything that we do at Baker is really a result of collective action and this idea of collective efficacy that together we are able to make great things happen. Next slide, please. Actually, before I get into this, I actually do want to mention a few celebrations that I was remiss to put in this slide, but I wanted to mention that, so every year, one of the things I love about Baker is that we start off with a convocation assembly where the entire school gets together in September to acknowledge and kick off the school year and welcome new members to the Baker community. That includes our entire kindergarten class and new students and new staff. So that happens every year in September. At the end of last year, we had our middle school play, and we've been doing that every year since we were able to come back from the pandemic. And so last year's play was The Lion King, a phenomenal play put on by our 6th grade science teacher, Yasmin Sharif. And what came out of that is we were awarded the Best Costume Design by the Middle School Division of the Massachusetts Educational Theaters Guild. So that was a shining moment of our middle school team, and we were very proud of that. And lastly, I wanted to point out with our MCAS in grade 7, we have the highest in the state percentage of students meeting and exceeding the standards in MCAS with 86%. So we are quite proud of our staff and our students here. Great things have been happening and great things are on the way. Um, Continuing, so when we think about how we can continue what we're doing at the Baker School, we want to make sure we're taking into consideration money brought in from the state, the town, and the federal government. And we are also making sure that we are spending this money and allocating resources in ways that are in line with provisions and constraints set forth by both the town and the school committee. Many of the funds that are directly related to the school often support a variety of things. One such thing is supporting educators as they support students. An example of that I'll talk in a little bit more about is supporting adults who supports after-school student activities. So we have a bunch of student affinity groups, the play that I just mentioned, athletics, student interest groups, which are starting to grow. So we have a new crafting club that started up last year. We have an environmental action club that is helpful in the future rollout of our composting program here at Baker. This is new this year. And another thing to note is that as our population continues to grow, our percentage of high needs students and students with disabilities also continues to grow. So as we think about funding on a district level, we also want to think about how we can maintain and provide the supports and staffing to make sure the students in all varieties are able to be supported to do their best work at the Baker School. Next slide, please. So you've heard similarly from my colleagues, principal colleagues, about the district goal about increasing student achievement. And in some areas, we're doing a really great job of that. In some areas, we are continuing to work to support that so that we have high achievement across the board. So at Baker, we're going to be working to implement consistent progress monitoring and data analysis mechanisms to make sure we are able to better identify students who are in need of intervention. It is important to know back in when I used to teach in math at the Runkle School, before we got to a test, I would tell students it's important to know what you know and know what you don't know, but you never want to not know what you don't know. And when you apply that method here, we want to make sure we know who's doing well and who needs additional support. And the best way to do that is to be able to analyze our data and be able to have progress monitoring. We want to know who's doing well, who needs additional support, and be able to provide them with that additional support. Next slide. So some of the things that we're doing to be able to meet those needs is we're going to continue implementation of Hegarty and Foundations programs in our early elementary classes. This is our phonics-based instruction. And then we're going to continue professional development with educators as we implement the new fish tank program. And so one of the things I'm really proud of here is that Brookline staff had the opportunity in the spring of last year to pilot a program to kind of get a feel of what fish tank is going to look like and feel like and what are potential challenges that we may come across before we go into full implementation. And what I'm really proud of is that the Baker School, we had at least one classroom in grades K through 4 implement some version of fish tank in the spring. So, and in many of the grade levels, we had multiple teachers in multiple grade levels implementing or piloting a unit of fish tank. And the benefit of that is we had some initial collaboration between and amongst staff in their implementation to kind of see, what is it? How do we make this work? How does this program fit within our schedule, within our school day? And what are some possible challenges that we may experience prior to designing the schedule for the next year? So that way we can make sure that we have as smooth a road as possible. This also allowed an opportunity for our literacy specialists to meet with grade level teachers to kind of talk about and help see what it looks like in the classroom, provide any resources, begin thinking what additional resources do we need to develop to help support teachers. I talked earlier about knowing what you know, knowing what you don't know. So this is the area of implementing screeners to see where kids are currently. So in K through 3, we use the M-Class screener, and in grades, last year in grades 4 through 6, we were using STAR. This year, we're using the STAR assessment in grades 4 through 8. So we added grades 7 and 8 this year. And we're also going to continue the practice of monitoring achievement in the middle school. So what this looks like is Our middle school this year has been having conversations and individual conferences with students after progress reports come out. So this is an opportunity for goal setting, to be able to talk about how we've done so far, what strategies and tips and tricks have we been using to get what we've gotten on our progress reports. Also the conversation of really being able to sit down and reflect with yourself or with the individual student. Do I like the grade that I got? If I don't like the grade that I got, what grade do I think I should be able to get? What steps in place do I need to do to get to that grade? Who can help me? I always talk about how middle school is the overarching goal of middle school is this idea of being more independent and more reflective. And we do that with conversations with our teachers on data with the IPRs. And this will happen again when we get to November with the report cards. Next slide, please. So in our second goal, we're talking about this idea of culturally responsive community engagement. So at Baker, we're going to continue to work to cultivate culturally responsive practices. One of the things that is amazing about Baker is that we have students and staff from literally all over the world. So we want to be able to make sure that everybody, staff, students, families, feel seen, heard, connected, and this will also connect to our goal 3 as well. And if you feel comfortable and you feel seen, you feel that you have something to contribute and to gain from the environment, you will do your best work. You will rise to the challenge. You will take that leap to take that academic risk. So on the next slide, we talk a little bit about what are the things we've been engaged in. So one is the idea of increasing confidence around addressing and integrating cultural diversity within our teaching practices. So previously, I believe it was 2 years ago, if not last year, no, 2 years ago, we were able to get faculty the copy of the book, Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain. And what we did is we did a book study, a collective Baker School book study. What we've done since then is any new staff that has come to Baker School, we've given them a copy of that book. It's kind of so that everyone's on the same page about language. That's the first thing that's important. It's also a great opportunity when we're having conversations between and among ourselves as staff about either celebrations or challenges that we may have. This is a resource that we all have that we can refer back to. A common phrase that staff hear me use a lot is this concept of a warm demander. If you think about that educator that is tough as nails, but will do anything for you, that's your warm demander. They set high standards and they give you the confidence and belief that you can meet that goal. Yes, it's hard, but you can do it. I've said it so much that I think that I know the page on which this exists. It's page 99. So that is a book that we have out in the community. I have a long-term goal of wanting to create a mini library of sorts of teacher resources that anytime a teacher wants to look into a particular strategy, pedagogy thought, there's a place they can go and pull out a book for a little bit and go through that. Connected with this is conversations with the Office of Teaching and Learning and the Office of Student Services to discuss any further professional development and family engagement opportunities that may exist. So where are there opportunities? We have a great partnership with the Massachusetts Partnership for Youth. They do a lot of webinars and a whole host of topics and resources. They have a family toolkit. So you can go and join a webinar and hear a lot about any particular topic that's going on. They are run by experts in the field. So that's a great space and a great resource for staff and families. Next slide, please. So our third goal is connected to our second goal. It's this idea of partnering with families and the community to create a strong sense of belonging. So we want to make sure that we have and maintain a supportive, inclusive learning environment where all students and families feel seen, safe, and valued. If you don't have that, you can't learn. It's almost, I like to think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Being seen, safe, and valued is needed in order to be able to get yourself in a space to be able to take in the academic content that is going on in the classroom. So on the next slide, we talk a little bit about what's going on here. To be part of a community, you need to have information. You need to know what's going on. So one of the things that was started and will continue doing is regular communication with families about what's going on at the school. I've started what's called a note from Edith that goes out to families at least monthly. And then this year, I'm trying to see if I can get it out every 2 weeks with all information what's going on in the school and reminders about what's going on district-wide. And this is a place, one-stop shopping, where families can kind of go and find out, all right, what do I need to know? What's coming up? What workshops are available, and then also what other places can I go if I have additional questions. So linked there is always the Baker School website, the Public Schools of Brookline website, and our PTO website. So that's a place for families to go to find more information. Connected to that, because we have families from all over, we have families whose first language is different across the board, and we want to make sure our communications are provided in the language of their choice, so their preferred language. So all of the notes from Edith that come out have the ability to be translated into a particular family's preferred language. So that way we remove the barrier of we remove a barrier to be able to understand and know what's going on at the Baker School. What's going on this year is we're going to begin work along with the district leadership around revising the school website. So that way that information is also so that website is another spot for staff and students and family members and prospective families to learn more about the Baker School and the public schools of Brookline as a whole. And then also continuing with this idea of making sure everyone's on the same page is we have to update our student handbook, and student guidebook for families and students. So that way everything is also that is another spot for people to go to learn more about the Baker School. The ultimate goal here is that we have at least 3 different places that people can go if they want to know more about how we do what we do at the Baker School. So that's the notes from Edith, that's the school website, and that's the family's handbook. We are seeing a lot of great results as a result of the work that we've been doing. And you can see this on our next slide. One of the things that we're really proud of is our attendance. So a lot of our previous principals have talked about chronic absenteeism. And while we still have a ways to go, what I really am proud of here is that pretty much in every one of the groups here, except for one, you see a decrease in the amount of chronic absenteeism. So one of the things we have been doing to do this, or to see this, is we've been sending home messages to families roughly quarterly, letting them know where their students are in terms of attendance. So if at that particular time, that student has been meeting the definition of chronically absent, which is roughly 10% of the school year. So for the whole school year, that'd be 18 days. Then we send a note home saying your child has missed X number of days. And then, so there's a first note, and then we're having a second note that'll go out if they've already gotten the first note and nothing has increased or things have increased. We send a second note. And in that case, we also then provide resources. We'll have our school counselors reach out. If need be, we'll invite families in to have a conversation with our school counselors, our vice principals, or myself if need be. So we can really figure out what is at the core of keeping kids from school. When you look at our panorama data, we notice that the sense of belonging is increasing. So the panorama data with regards to this school belonging started in 2020, and the rate of students who were reporting high sense of school belonging was 51%. It's understandable, but not a great rate. Now, if you look at the spring of 2025, that number is 86%. So we have been seeing an increase in a sense of school belonging since we've been implementing this survey. And I think part of the reason of that is because kids are coming to school, and they're coming to school because they feel seen, valued. There is, when you also look at the data, you see that there's a high number of students who are reporting supportive relationships at school. So they know that if they have a challenge, whether it's socially, emotionally, academically, there is someone here who will support them. That's that concept of a warm demander. They know that there's someone who has their back. So these attendance rates are an indicator of all of that together. So that was very quick, a quick snapshot of Baker School, but I want to thank you all for your time. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Saeed. I appreciate it. And congratulations on your Lion King costumes.
Yes, we are very proud about that.
I hope you have lots of pictures about that. We ready?
No, no,
Oh,
you gotta say hello. Hi, Saeed, this is Bob Weintraub.
Bob, how are you?
How you doing? Listen,
It's been a while.
I appreciate the community building. And did you develop the concept of notes from Edith?
Yes, yes, I started that last year, and I needed to have I have a message to the staff that goes out every week. It's called the Bulldog Bulletin, and I needed to have something different for the families. I didn't want to use the same thing, so I spent too much time thinking about it that I'm proud to say. But then when it came up, I was like, "This is perfect." A note
Everybody
from
know
me.
what that means?
Yeah,
Okay. Anyway, very comprehensive report. Thank you.
thank you.
okay, thank you, Saeed. We appreciate it.
No
Sure.
problem. Have a good one.
So I just want to say welcome to Anthony and BHS. I know we're running a little behind, so I'm sorry, Anthony. If there are people who cannot, in the audience, this is being recorded, so if someone has to leave,
No way, Anthony Myers here.
I am not leaving.
The rest of us are here to listen for as long as you want to speak.
Awesome. This is much must watch, must listen. I'm actually hoping in 10 minutes to go over to the girls' varsity senior night volleyball game. So here we go. So thanks, Curriculum School Subcommittee for being here and district leaders. This is our school improvement plan update. So Betsy, please, next slide. We have a wonderfully large school council. We have 4 parents. One of them is on this call, Julie Wingerter, and then we have 3 students. I think you know one of them well. Aditi Jayankshar is the student rep on school committee, so really good student voice. And then 5 staff members, 2 teachers and 3 administrators, so really terrific large group. We talk about a range of topics. And it's been really enjoyable. And we begin meeting again in November. We need to elect 1 more student and potentially 1 more parent because, as you can see, Anna Poduri and Asha Hug have moved on, rightly so, as they've graduated. So next slide, please. Lots to celebrate and similar themes from what you heard. And I just listened to Brian and Saeed. But we have the lowest chronic attendance rate in the district, as we should as a high school. These are greater stakes, 7.9%. That's still something we monitor regularly. And as Saeed described, intervene in various ways for students who struggle with school attendance. And then a high sense of belonging. This is an area where we tend to lag behind or historically have lagged behind elementary schools in terms of sense of belonging. We're pleased that this is our highest percentage since we started the Panorama survey, and between the high and medium sense of belonging, that number is quite high in 98%. As you can imagine, we're focused on who those 2% are who aren't feeling that sense of belonging, or students who really struggle with attendance. We had a really good decennial visit from NEASC, and you're going to hear some clear areas of focus in the upcoming slides. And I would just say this year has been a gift in terms of how clear we were coming into summer and then going into the school year about what we needed to focus on, sort of the big strands of work. And I'm grateful to Robin and Bella and Joelle for their support as we've identified those areas and are thinking about how best to work with the larger district. You'll hear a little bit more about our building curriculum accommodation plan. That's something that our school council took a look at. Is it something we more or less ratified or approved, that we're ready to move forward and figuring out how sort of tools we can give for teachers to individualize and also offer universal strategies to support students. I continue to be very proud of our growing unified sports program, and that's thanks to Kyle Williams and his team. It was a goal we set when he came on board, and now we're adding the newest element in bocce, and then some state championships, almost always in cross country, and then also volleyball and ultimate frisbee, and just huge participation numbers. So I actually did go through all of those. I didn't summarize. So let's go next slide, Betsy, please. So I think in terms of goal number one, what I hope you hear is that we're working on the major areas of teaching and learning. We're working on curriculum, instruction, and assessment. These are areas, especially curriculum and assessment, that we told NEASC we needed to work on. So we have, as Bob knows better than anybody, we have over 300 courses at the high school. And I think making sure that we have similar format across departments and across the school is really important as we think about transitioning to new teachers. Teachers retire, teachers leave, and we want to make sure that we know what is expected in each course. And I also want to know that while there is always room for teacher freedom and some room for teacher autonomy, I want to know what students in physics are learning, what students are learning in junior American literature. So there's that strand of documented written curriculum. And then there are two pieces of assessment. One is a move towards common assessment. So similar idea that within a world history course, a mid-year should look mostly similar in two different honors world history courses. And I can't say that that's the case now, and it's something our student government and legislature have been clear about wanting more of that. I did end up vetoing their bill because I didn't think it was something that should be legislated, and it's something that we need to work on as a faculty. And then there are structures and practices that we want to work on in terms of assessment. And some of that is things like how are we supporting extra time so that the educators don't bear all of that. So those are things that we're working on. And then the Brookline Curriculum Accommodation Plan, as I said, is a series of strategies, all of which make sense, but where you can individualize or make universal. And to me, it's giving teachers the freedom that regardless of whether a student has an IEP or a 504 or an ICAP, teachers are freed up to try different things to intervene and support students in a range of ways. So we're proud of that work. And next slide, I probably should have. This is all, I've pretty much covered this. Yes, I mean, not surprisingly, as we prepared for that NEASC visit in the spring, our departments were and are at various points. And so, for instance, on PD Day, we're giving time to departments to dive into that work, and that will be more department focused than it will be whole school. Our coordinator academic team, which is made up of all curriculum coordinators and Unit B, as well as unaligned leaders, get together weekly, and we're agreeing on a common format that then will be implemented more at a department level. As you can see, the common assessments is to try to move towards a ratio of 70-30 or even 80-20 for common versus what might be individualized. Next slide, please, Betsy. BCAP is something that we're activating within departments, and then also experimenting with, and again, activating within our student intervention team. That's the high school version of the child study team, where educators and counselors and administrators are bringing forward students who might be struggling in one aspect of school or another. And I think our take overall is we have the tools we need in many cases. Yes, there are students who will need special education support, and there are ways that we can experiment and try things to help students right now and sort of gauge those practices over a shorter period of time of 6 to 8 weeks and say, what's working for this student, what still needs work. Next slide, please. So this is focused on another, and I should have said curriculum, instruction, assessment before our areas we're working on. It's also what do we want for all of our graduates and all of our students at Brookline High School and in the public schools of Brookline. And that is, to me, this area of vision of a learner or vision of a graduate. To be honest, we've been talking about this and circling this for a couple of years, and it is now time to do that, and we are doing that work. So Robin and I joined a team of 5 to go down to Cheshire, Connecticut late last week, and engage in a workshop on vision of a learner. And without getting too specific, it's an opportunity, as I said, to talk about what we want for all of our learners, what habits, what skills, what learning experiences. And so that's a conversation that will begin at the high school, thinking about what in the future, what will kids need as learners, as leaders, as citizens, as workers? And as you can tell, that's a very broad set of questions that to me is a huge opportunity for us to engage as an entire district and community. And some of the specific learning beliefs may be different school to school and certainly by age, and yet that's something everyone has a perspective on, and I think we all realize is important. So for me, sorry, Betsy, next slide. Once I get talking, it can be hard to also look at the slides. It's an opportunity to have a series of conversations, surveys, focus groups that help us hone what we want for our kids. And it can seem sort of like a Potemkin village where you just create a piece of paper that says, we want kids to be strong collaborators and effective communicators. The folks who presented to us were from Nipmuc High School in Massachusetts. And it's so clear that it's a living document, that vision of a learner is something that helps them think about how they teach and learn, what they teach and learn. So really excited about that. And we're specifically excited to bring some of that to the school committee to engage you in those conversations and some of those activities. So as you can see, it's at least a year and a half of work, and the high school is moving sort of quickly between October and November, and then we'll bring along a larger, wider district team. So we have a smaller steering committee that has Robin Benoit on it and Matt Rosenthal, who's our math curriculum coordinator, pre-K to 8, and then 4 high school people, maybe 5 high school people. And we're also excited to work with our school council, that's a good area for them to help us think about those conversations and surveys and such. Next slide, please. So this is continuing the work, and I know I've blown past 10 minutes. This is work continuing from last year. And so it's around comments on IPRs and trying to be clearer internally and externally with what we do with those comments and make sure that dean's teams are being super clear about what they do when they read a certain comment about following up with a student who may be struggling. We continue a cycle of professional learning that we've done over the past 3 years that I'm really excited about. Includes Landmark, it includes some common assessment work and some student support. And then we've also added 2 strands of artificial intelligence professional learning. So those are more or less 10 Tuesday sessions throughout the year that educators select a strand and then follow the year within that strand. And we think that that's really important to engage in that way. And we continue to focus on absenteeism and attendance. And then the now biannual panorama data is really important. And I say with my advisory, or to my advisory all the time, no, this really does matter to us, because I think in some ways they wonder, are we a surveillance state, or is this just something we have them do and then don't do anything with? It's really different than either of those. It is looking at data and determining who are the kids who don't have a strong sense of belonging, what are kids who say they don't have friends, who are the kids who don't feel as though they have a trusted adult, and then try to act on that data. Because as Saeed and really Brian both said, those are foundational elements. Sense of belonging, coming to school, having a trusted adult, that we want to make sure our kids have that. And we know that not all do. And so that's ongoing work. So I think that is the things I spoke to. Sorry, Betsy, that I'm talking ahead and not saying when to move forward the slides. The 3-year professional learning, great. Um, and so this is just what could be, this was a slide in the template we were rightly given. There may be some summer workshop funds. Not all of the curriculum work can happen within the school year, given limited time in the contract. And so some of that may be budget requests for July when the new financial year starts or fiscal year starts. And depending, we're able to use some monies to support the leadership of these strands of work. And it may be that those are asks for next year or additional asks. And then I think it's really just thank you and let me know if you have questions. There's our beautiful STEM building.
All right, thank you so much, Anthony. Appreciate it. Anybody? Bob, I know Bob will. Go ahead, Bob.
Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Bob.
I love your report. I love the graphics, especially with the green line going under the new campus there. I love the belonging data. Amazing for a big high school. So impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
And probably the most impressive thing in your presentation was the implementation of bocce. And I want to know where the bocce court is.
Well, admit to being very alarmed when I heard that it might be in the STEM Commons, and I was imagining the bocce balls of yesteryear, and I was imagining what our head custodian would do to me if that were the case. And Bob, you know him well enough to know what he would do to me and to you. So I've been told it's a different style ball, and I still need to confirm because my alarm hasn't quite stopped ringing yet.
Finally, my downstairs neighbor, who's now a sophomore at Brookline High School, totally loves you and totally loves the high school. Thank you.
Awesome. Let's go, Jake. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, amazing, Anthony. I love
Sarah,
it.
and then Carolyn.
I know that in order to do common assessments, we need to start with curriculum. And do you feel like you gave your teachers and the department heads enough time to get the curriculum to the place where common assessments now make sense to write?
That's a really good point, Sarah, and I think it's why you see, and I didn't, even though the school improvement plan is theoretically for last year and this year, you'll see that some of that work extends. So the common curriculum work is at least this year and next year with the goal of having some outward facing documents that following year. In terms of assessment, some teams have already been working on this. So I would say math and science have fairly to completely common assessments. This has been an area of social studies. So it's why you're hearing me say it's really department based work because the needs are different. So I think my genuine answer to your question is not really, meaning in terms of the amount of heads up. And yet this is something we've been signaling for a while and trying to sync up and working with Robin and Joelle in terms of moving that forward.
That's great. That's great work.
Carolyn.
Yeah, just quick. Hi, how are you? Thank you.
I'm good, Carolyn. Thanks.
I am excited to observe as you and your team work on the vision of a learner. Just because, as you know, huge fan of our Jewel BHS and everything you've done for our community and my kids. So I'm always loving watching what you're doing sort of day to day and then sort of this global kind of thinking. So I'm excited to observe that.
Thank you.
And just the usual thank you. You mentioned junior American literature. I could speak for my own junior in American literature. And this is actually meaningful. My husband and I sat looking at each other with our jaws open the other night as our junior recited the entirety of The Raven.
Oh my gosh.
And that is an engaged student. So thank you. And thank you to Nick Rothstein for that.
Great. Well, good. And that's a good segue to, I have a very small role in all of this. Brookline High School is about its teachers, its counselors, its nurses, and the entire team. I'm blessed to have a really strong administrative team. And so I merely hold the vessel and steer it some. But I'm really grateful to have a great team and a supportive school committee and district leaders. So Thank you all.
Anthony, thank you for your leadership. The boat would go astray or would be grounded if we didn't have a strong leader. So thank you so very much for that. And I think we're going to let you go if you can still make it to the volleyball.
I will move quickly. All right. Thanks so much, you all. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And unless there's new business, we will conclude.
That was no small amount of information.
So Suzanne, as I expressed at the end of the last meeting, I just want to put on the table the possibility of two discussions coming up.
I think I wrote them down.
Thank you.
I did. I have them right here.
Yeah, the WISP thing and
Yeah.
professional development.
Yeah. I got those down.
Richard?